Good morning and welcome. Tonight, as you let the day fall away and allow your mind to soften into quiet, I want to walk with you into a question that has shaped the lives of countless people. What truly determines our success? Is it talent fixed at birth, or the mindset we choose to carry? If you find this summary helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to BookSnap, and comment below the title of the book you'd like us to summarize next. We'll make it happen soon. Now imagine yourself standing at the edge of two paths in a forest at twilight. The first path is lined with stone walls, tall and immovable, hemming you in. Every step feels heavy, as though someone has already written the script of your life, and your role is fixed forever. You tell yourself, "This is who I am. I can't change it. If I fail, it means I was never good enough to begin with." This is the path of the fixed mindset, a world where potential is predetermined and mistakes are signs of weakness. On the second path, the walls are gone. Trees arch overhead, their branches reaching for the sky, and though the path is uneven, you sense it can lead anywhere. Every stumble is just a step in the dance of learning. Here, failure is not an ending but a teacher. Success is not proof of innate talent, but the result of persistence, curiosity, and growth. This is the growth mindset. As you take a slow breath, picture yourself looking back and forth between these two worlds. Both are possible futures. Both exist inside you. The choice is not about intelligence, talent, or luck. It's about what you believe. Do you see ability as something carved in stone, a label you must protect at all costs? Or do you see it as clay, something soft and shapeable, ready to be molded by your effort and patience? The truth Carol Dweck reveals is unsettling at first. It is not always your skills that hold you back, but the story you believe about your skills. A child told they are so smart might shrink from challenges that risk proving otherwise. An athlete praised only for natural talent may crumble when talent alone is no longer enough. The fixed mindset whispers, "Don't try too hard. If you fail, it proves you're not who you thought you were." But the growth mindset offers another whisper. Try, stretch, struggle. Every failure is evidence you are growing into who you can become. You can almost feel the weight of this realization settle in your chest. The freedom of knowing you are not trapped in the person you are today. Your mind is not a cage. It is a seed. And like all seeds, it can push through the soil, find the sun, and grow into something vast and alive. In the quiet of this moment, consider the two paths again. One narrows with each step, closing off possibilities. The other expands, like an open horizon. Tonight, we will walk that second path together, through stories of children, athletes, leaders, and dreamers, all of them revealing how the way you think about yourself can determine the life you create. You take your first steps down the narrow path, the one bound by stone walls. The air feels heavy, almost suffocating, and the silence is broken only by the sound of your own doubts echoing back at you. This is the world of the fixed mindset. Here, every mistake is a scar carved into the stone. Every stumble feels like proof that you never should have been walking at all. You see a child standing in the middle of this path. She is praised for being smart, for always getting the right answers. At first, she beams with pride. But then, as the questions get harder, the sparkle fades. She looks at the problems in front of her and whispers, "What if I fail? What if they realize I'm not as smart as they think?" Instead of trying, she steps back. She avoids challenges, hides from the possibility of failure, and slowly, the walls close in around her. You walk further, and another scene unfolds. A boy once celebrated as a natural athlete sits on the bench, watching others play. When he was younger, he never had to try. Success came easily, but now the game has grown faster, harder, more demanding. He feels betrayed, as if his talent has abandoned him. He thinks, maybe I was never really good. Maybe I'm just done. The wall beside him rises taller, casting a longer shadow, cutting off the sunlight. The air here is thick with fear. You can almost hear the chorus of inner voices. Don't take the risk. Don't look foolish. Don't expose yourself. In this world, people measure themselves by perfection. Intelligence, beauty, talent. They are seen as fixed traits, like jewels you either have or don't. And if you fail, those jewels shatter, and you are left with nothing. You pass a door carved into the wall. On it is etched a single phrase: "What will they think of me?" That question beats like a drum in the hearts of those who walk this path. You step closer, and you notice people who cling to their achievements like fragile glass trophies, terrified of dropping them. You notice others who stop before reaching the mountain ahead, choosing the comfort of certainty over the danger of growth. And then you realize, this is not just their world. It has been yours too. Every time you avoided a challenge because you feared embarrassment, you were walking this path. Every time you said, "I'm just not good at this," you laid another stone in the wall. The path feels narrower now. The walls press closer, their shadows deepening. You pause. The thought surfaces. If this is where the fixed mindset leads, what happens if I turn back? What lies on the other path? You close your eyes, take a breath, and step toward the opening where the trees sway. The walls dissolve behind you, and the forest of growth begins to whisper its secrets. The forest air feels different as you walk beneath the canopy of tall, bending trees. Sunlight filters through the leaves, scattering into golden shards on the ground. Unlike the rigid stone corridor you just left, this place feels alive, breathing, moving, changing with every step. This is the world of growth. Ahead, a young boy kneels on the forest floor, piecing together fragments of broken pottery. His hands are dirty, his first attempts clumsy. Shards slip and fall apart, but he doesn't flinch. He smiles, adjusts his grip, and tries again. You watch as slowly, almost imperceptibly, the fragments begin to form something recognizable. In the fixed mindset world, this moment would have been a declaration of failure. Here, it is simply part of the process. A little farther along, you see a girl standing before a towering rock wall. Her friends tell her it's impossible to climb, that only the naturally gifted could scale something so high. She looks at them, then back at the wall, and begins to climb anyway. She slips, scrapes her hand, but doesn't stop. Every grasp, every attempt, strengthens her grip. Her progress is slow, but real. The wall does not shrink, but her courage grows taller than the obstacle. The path winds deeper, and you notice carvings etched into the bark of the trees. Words like "yet" and "not yet." They glow faintly, as if the forest itself is alive with encouragement. You run your hand over one, and suddenly you feel a shift inside, a reminder that every failure can be reframed. Not "I can't do this," but "I can't do this yet." Not a dead end, but a bridge. This world thrives on effort. You see travelers carrying heavy loads, sweat glistening on their brows, and yet their faces shine with quiet determination. They know something the people trapped behind the stone walls did not. That effort is not a sign of weakness, but a path to strength. Each attempt, each mistake, is like water flowing over rock, shaping it slowly but surely into something new. You think back to your own life, to the times you turned away, afraid of being exposed as not good enough. How many doors did you leave unopened because you feared what was on the other side? How many opportunities slipped past because you clung to certainty instead of embracing the unknown? Here, in this place, you begin to see that growth is not about proving who you are, but about discovering who you can become. The forest seems to widen, the light grows warmer, and you feel a spark, small but alive, urging you forward. The journey is only beginning, but already you sense the difference. One path shrinks you, the other expands you, and with each step into the forest, you begin to wonder what else might be waiting to grow inside you. The forest ahead shifts into something stranger. Trees stretch like cathedral columns, their bark carved with words you've heard all your life. Some are sharp: failure, not smart enough, worthless. Others glow with softer light: learning, growth, possibility. Each phrase is a reminder that the stories we tell ourselves, and the ones we inherit from others, become the architecture of our inner world. You pause beneath one of the glowing carvings. I can't do this. Yet. That single word, yet, feels like a lantern placed in your hands. It transforms what was once a dead end into a doorway. Suddenly, the failures you once hid from don't feel like final verdicts. They feel like steps on a staircase you had not noticed before, each step leading you higher. As you climb, the forest reveals new scenes. A young violinist stumbles through a difficult passage. Her teacher smiles gently, saying, "That was hard. Let's work on it." The girl nods, her frustration softening into determination. You see how the narrative changes everything. In a fixed mindset, the mistake proves she lacks talent. In a growth mindset, the mistake proves she is stretching, building new muscles, discovering new possibilities. Further ahead, you witness a boy sitting alone after a test, staring at a red mark on the page. In the stone-walled world, this mark would brand him, sealing his identity as a failure. But here, he whispers to himself, "I'll learn how to do it next time." The paper transforms before your eyes into a map, pointing him toward his next challenge. You begin to sense how often we hand each other these scripts without realizing it. A parent calls a child brilliant, but the child hears, "I must always be brilliant, or I'll lose their love." Another child is called hardworking, and she hears, "Even if I struggle, it means I'm getting stronger." One phrase closes the path, the other opens it. The forest path grows brighter, wider, more alive with every step you take. The carvings shift into glowing symbols. A mask that cracks to reveal a face beneath, a key floating above a stairway, a flame flickering but never dying. You realize that these symbols are not random. They are the images your own mind creates when you change the story you live by. As you reach a clearing, you understand the truth. Our mindset is not just about how we think. It is the lens through which we see ourselves. And whatever story we choose to repeat, "I am fixed, I am fragile, or I can grow, I can learn," becomes the reality we step into. The question now lingers in the air like a bell still vibrating. Which story will you allow to guide your steps? The clearing fades, and now you stand in a small room filled with children's drawings taped across the walls. Crayons scattered, paper crumpled, laughter mixed with the occasional frustrated sigh. You watch a little boy beam as he shows his mother a picture he has drawn. She kneels down, smiles, and says, "You're so smart." The boy's chest rises with pride, but you notice something flicker in his eyes. A fear, quiet but sharp. What happens if the next drawing isn't as good? What happens if he tries something harder and fails? Will he stop being the smart one? In another corner, a girl shows her father a drawing that looks messy, uneven, colors spilling beyond the lines. Her father looks closely, nods, and says, "You worked so hard on this. I can see how much effort you put in." The girl's eyes light up. Instead of worrying about being talented or not talented, she sees effort as the path forward. She crumples the page, pulls out another, and begins again with excitement. You begin to realize the subtle danger of praise that locks us into fixed labels. When we're praised for talent, we may cling to it, fearing to step beyond what feels safe. When we're praised for effort, were freed to explore, to try, to fail, and to grow. The room shifts, and suddenly you see yourself sitting at a desk years ago, a paper in your hands. Maybe it was a grade, a performance review, or a comment from someone you admired. Their words etched themselves into your mind like one of those carvings on the forest trees. Did you hear, "You're talented, don't lose it"? Or did you hear, "You worked hard, keep going"? The difference between the two shaped the risks you were willing to take, the setbacks you were willing to endure. The drawings on the wall begin to ripple and change. Some transform into portraits of children hiding behind masks, their eyes wide with fear of judgment. Others bloom into stairways of color, rising upward, each step built from trial, error, and persistence. Love and approval, the two forces every child craves, can become chains or wings. If love feels conditional, tied to being perfect, the child may never risk imperfection. But if love is linked to growth, to effort, to curiosity, then the child learns the most important truth of all. I am not what I achieve. I am a work in progress. You step back into the forest, carrying with you the memory of those children and their drawings. The path ahead feels both uncertain and inviting. The trees sway, whispering the same word again, over and over. Yet, 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 yet. The forest bends again, and now you find yourself in a long, echoing hallway lined with desks. Chalk dust floats in the air like pale mist. This is the world of school, where children sit with pencils trembling in their hands, staring at tests that seem to measure their very worth. You hear the scratching of graphite, the shuffle of papers, the nervous cough of someone afraid to fail. At the front of one classroom, a teacher writes a single word on the blackboard, "Yet." The letters glow faintly, as if the forest itself has followed you here. A young girl stares at a problem she cannot solve. Her friend leans over and whispers, "You're just not good at math." The words sting, and you see her shoulders droop. But then the teacher points to the word on the board and says, "Not yet. You don't understand it yet." And that means your brain is growing. The girl looks back at her paper, not with despair this time, but with curiosity. The problem hasn't changed, but her story about it has. You move down the hall and peer into another room. A boy who always aced his spelling tests now faces words he doesn't know. His hand hovers above the page. In a fixed mindset, every blank feels like humiliation. His face reddens, and he pushes the test aside. But another student in the room, praised for persistence instead of perfection, erases her mistake, tries again, and finally writes the word correctly. Her smile is not about proving her intelligence, but about proving her resilience. The hallway stretches into a gymnasium, where children are learning to shoot basketballs. Some kids miss their first attempt and immediately throw down the ball, muttering, "I'm just not athletic." Others miss again and again, then adjust their stance, try a different angle, and cheer when the ball finally sinks through the hoop. You can feel the difference in the air. One group is trapped by fear, the other is fueled by possibility. As you walk through these rooms, you begin to see how schools can either build walls or open doors. When grades and test scores are treated as verdicts, children shrink into themselves. But when mistakes are framed as not yet, classrooms transform into laboratories of growth where every failure is a clue, every challenge a stepping stone. You think of your own past, of the times you froze during a test, convinced you were not capable. What if someone had whispered "yet" in your ear? What if you had believed that the struggle itself was proof you were learning? How different would your journey have been? The chalk dust in the gymnasium rises into the air and begins to swirl like stardust, forming a staircase that leads upward into the night sky. You step onto it, feeling the boards of the gym floor dissolve beneath your feet. The forest is gone. Ahead lies another world, where the stakes are higher, where the classroom has no walls, and where the test is no longer about spelling or arithmetic, but about leading others when the weight of responsibility is crushing. The staircase of light lifts you above the treetops and carries you into a vast hall of stone and fire. The air is thick with the echo of voices, the voices of leaders, managers, coaches, and mentors. They stand on high platforms, commanding armies, guiding companies, shaping futures. This is the realm where mindsets ripple outward, multiplying their effects through the lives of others. You watch one leader stride across the hall. He is certain of his own brilliance, his eyes hard, his voice sharp. Every mistake his team makes feels to him like a reflection of his own inadequacy, so he hides behind authority. He demands perfection, punishes failure, and praises only talent. At first, his people obey. They work hard to avoid criticism. But you notice something. Their shoulders stiffen, their creativity shrinks, and the room grows colder. Fear silences curiosity. No one dares to risk a new idea. Then the scene shifts. Another leader steps forward. She carries herself differently, not higher than her team, but among them. She listens before she speaks. When someone stumbles, she doesn't punish. She asks questions. What did you try? What did you learn? What can we adjust next time? Slowly the room warms. People lift their heads. Voices rise. Ideas spark like fireflies in the air. Effort is no longer shameful. It is celebrated. You realize how the mindset of a leader becomes the mindset of the culture. A fixed mindset creates silence, fear, and fragility. A growth mindset creates resilience, collaboration, and innovation. One kind of leader builds walls. The other builds bridges. But not all is simple. You see a coach on the sidelines, his team losing badly. His fists are clenched. The players glance at him, waiting for either comfort or condemnation. For a moment, he hesitates, the old voice inside him screaming that his reputation is at stake. Then he exhales, steps forward, and says, "We're not done. This is our chance to learn who we are." His players nod, sweat dripping down their brows, and return to the field with new fire in their eyes. The hall darkens. You hear echoes of your own past leaders. A boss who made you afraid to fail. A mentor who believed in your effort. A manager who only praised when you succeeded. And another who asked questions that made you think bigger. Their voices overlap, weaving together into a chorus of influence. You begin to see how leadership is not just about what we do, but about the mindset we pass on to others. The torches in the hall flare brighter, casting light on a grand doorway ahead. Beyond it, you sense another realm, not of classrooms or boardrooms, but of hearts, where the deepest human connections are tested. You step forward, ready to see how mindset shapes the stories we tell in love, in family, in the fragile bonds we hold most dear. You step through the doorway, and suddenly the vast hall of leaders fades into a softer place. A quiet garden glows under the silver wash of moonlight. Lanterns float on a still pond, and around its edges couples and friends sit together, their voices weaving stories, laughter, and confessions. This is the realm of relationships, where mindsets whisper between every word, shaping the way people love, trust, and endure. You watch a pair of friends sitting on a wooden bench. One speaks with excitement, sharing a new idea, but the other frowns. "You'll never be good at that," he says flatly, as if stamping a label on his friend's forehead. The first boy's enthusiasm drains away, replaced by silence. In the fixed mindset, love and acceptance can feel conditional, as though you're only valued if you fit an image that never changes. But just across the pond, another scene glimmers. A young woman tells her partner about a dream she has, to start something new, something uncertain. Her voice trembles, braced for judgment. Instead, her partner leans closer, smiles, and says, "I believe you can grow into it. Let's figure it out together. The fear in her chest softens, replaced by a warmth that expands through her whole being. Here, in the growth mindset, love is not about being flawless. It is about walking beside each other, willing to grow through mistakes, struggles, and change. As you move deeper into the garden, you notice statues along the path. Some are pristine, polished, without a single crack. But they feel cold, untouchable. Others are fractured, repaired with golden seams, their flaws shining brighter than the stone itself. These are the people who learned to embrace vulnerability, who saw in their own imperfections an opportunity for connection rather than shame. A breeze stirs, carrying with it voices from families. A father scolding his son, "You're just not like your brother. You'll never be as talented." A mother whispering to her daughter, "You worked so hard today. I'm proud of how much you've grown." One message builds a cage, the other builds wings. You can almost feel the weight of those words, pressing down or lifting up, shaping who we believe we are allowed to be in love and in life. The lanterns on the water begin to drift away, carried by the current toward a distant horizon. They remind you that every relationship is a journey of two people walking together, each with their own inner world of stories and beliefs. When both live in the growth mindset, the bond becomes a river, flexible, resilient, able to bend and still flow forward. But when one clings to a fixed identity, the water hardens to ice, brittle and ready to crack. You feel the garden shift again, the lanterns stretching into the distance like stars. The air grows cooler, the night darker, and you sense the path will soon lead into a place where growth is no longer about school or love, but about something deeper, the courage to transform yourself, even when the old story feels unshakable. The garden fades, and you find yourself standing at the edge of a quiet river. The moon glimmers on the surface, yet the water is restless, pulling at the banks as if urging you to move. This is the place of decision, the crossing point between who you have been and who you might become. On the opposite shore, you see faint silhouettes, versions of yourself you have not yet lived into. Some stand taller, calmer, wiser. Others carry tools, books, instruments, symbols of skills you once told yourself you could never master. They look back at you, not with judgment, but with invitation. You step onto a small boat tethered to the bank. The wood creaks, the rope groans, and the current tugs you forward. As the boat drifts, voices rise from the water, the voices of a fixed mindset you once believed. You're too old. You're not talented. You'll never change. They swirl like shadows beneath the surface, trying to pull you back. Then, faintly, another voice enters. It is softer, but steady. Not yet. Keep rowing. Each stroke makes you stronger. The words echo, aligning with the rhythm of your arms as you push the oars through the current. You begin to realize that change is not a single leap across the river. It is each stroke, each choice, each moment you decide to keep moving despite resistance. On the shore you're leaving behind, you see a figure, a man frozen in place, clutching his old trophies, unwilling to risk them in the crossing. His walls are high, his path narrow, and though he longs for the light across the river, he cannot bear the thought of failing in the attempt. The water begins to rise around him, swallowing the walls he thought would protect him. You turn your gaze away, your grip firm on the oars. Halfway across, the current grows violent. Your boat rocks. Doubts return. What if I sink? What if I was never capable of growth at all? The water roars, dark and cold. And then, through the mist, you notice one of those glowing lanterns from the garden drifting beside your boat. On its paper surface is a single word: courage. You breathe it in. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to keep rowing while afraid. The river begins to calm. The silhouettes on the far shore grow clearer, And you see that they are not distant strangers. They are simply you, the version of yourself that appears when you stop believing in the permanence of who you are and start believing in the possibility of who you might become. The boat touches the other shore with a soft thud. You step onto solid ground. The air here is different, fresher, freer, filled with the scent of possibility. You realize you've just crossed the first great river of the journey, the crossing from fixed to growth. But ahead, the path leads into even greater landscapes. Not just who you are, but what you can build when you lead your life with this new story. Your feet sink into soft earth as you step onto the far bank of the river. The air here is warmer, touched by the colors of dawn. The forest has opened into a vast plain, and in the distance you see mountains rising like watchful guardians. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of living with growth as your compass. You walk forward and notice travelers all around you. Some carry musical instruments, their fingers fumbling at first, then steadying, producing melodies that weren't possible yesterday. Others carry books, scribbling notes, crossing out mistakes, rewriting lines, learning how to tell their story more clearly with every attempt. Some stumble, laugh, and try again, their failures scattering behind them like fallen leaves. You realize that in this world, success is not a trophy you hold once and fear losing. It is a living practice, like breathing, like walking. It is not about arriving at a final destination, but about stepping forward again and again, each day a new chance to grow. A young runner appears beside you. She tells you that she used to think she wasn't fast enough, that she would never compete with the best. But then she chose to see herself as unfinished. She trained, failed, rested, returned. The race didn't stop being hard, but she stopped seeing her limits as permanent. Her victory was not the medal at the end, but the strength she built along the way. Another traveler, older now, tells you that he once believed he was too late to change careers, too late to learn, too late to start again. But the growth mindset whispered, "You're not too late. You're just not there yet." He picked up new skills, stumbled through unfamiliar lessons, and discovered that growth has no expiration date. The path widens into an open field of glowing symbols scattered in the grass. Broken chains, mended hearts, keys lying half buried in the soil. You bend down and pick one up. It feels heavy, yet warm, as though it has been waiting for your hand. You understand that every day you live with a growth mindset, you hold a key, the power to open a new door, to write a new chapter, to unlock a part of yourself that has been waiting to grow. The mountains ahead glow with sunlight. Their peaks are hidden in clouds, unreachable for now. But strangely, that no longer frightens you. The journey is not about reaching the highest summit at once. It is about climbing, resting, learning, and climbing again. It is about walking forward, carrying courage, carrying the story of growth that will guide you for the rest of your life. And as the light spreads across the plain, you feel it settle deep within you, a quiet certainty that you are not fixed, not finished, not defined by the past. You are unfolding, step by step, into the fullest version of yourself. And the path before you is endless. The plain stretches wide, and as you keep walking, the mountains in the distance shimmer like they're alive, reshaping themselves with every shift of the light. You realize that this is what the growth mindset truly is. Not a destination, but a living rhythm, a constant unfolding. The air tastes new, crisp, like possibility itself, and each step you take feels less like a burden and more like a choice. You see a craftsman sitting beneath a tree, carving wood. His hands are weathered, his first strokes uneven. Pieces splinter, shapes collapse, yet he doesn't curse, doesn't stop. He lifts the broken fragment, studies it, and begins again. With every attempt, his work becomes smoother, sharper, more alive. You watch him smile at the progress, not the perfection, as though the effort itself is what he loves. Nearby, a child is learning to ride a bicycle. She wobbles, falls, scrapes her knee. A fixed mindset voice would say, "You're not meant for this. Stop before you embarrass yourself." But she climbs back on, steadies her small hands on the handlebars, and pushes forward. The next fall hurts less. The next try lasts longer. Then, without realizing it, she's flying down the path, the wind in her hair, laughter spilling out like music. Growth reveals itself in motion, not in waiting for certainty. You pause to reflect. How many times have you held yourself back because you believed you weren't ready? How many times have you mistaken struggle for a signal to stop instead of a signal to continue? The truth unfolds before you now. Readiness is not something you wait for. It is something you create through the act of moving, trying, failing, and trying again. The plane begins to shift into a marketplace. Stalls rise around you, filled with voices bargaining, children weaving between crowds, merchants adjusting their goods after every customer. No one here seems afraid to adapt. A baker pulls a burned loaf from the oven and laughs, kneading another batch with greater care. A calligrapher ruins a page, then flips it over and tries again, each mistake teaching her hand to steady. This place breathes with a rhythm of resilience, and you feel it seep into your own bones. In the center of the market, a tall mirror stands cracked down the middle. You approach it cautiously, remembering the masks and broken portraits from before. Your reflection looks back at you, but it is not fixed. With every breath, your reflection shifts slightly, sometimes older, sometimes younger, sometimes stronger, sometimes still learning. For the first time, you don't resist the change. You let the mirror reshape you, knowing that your identity is not a finished sculpture, but a living story still being written. As the market fades, you hear the sound of drums rolling from beyond the hills. A call to gather, a call to rise, a call to lead yourself into the life you are meant to grow into. You step forward, carrying the key of courage, ready for the final climb toward the mountains that wait in the distance. You follow the sound of drums into the hills, where the earth grows steeper and the air sharper. Each step tests your breath, your legs, your will. Here, the journey is no longer about classrooms or marketplaces. It is about carrying the weight of your own story. On the trail ahead, you see a man bent under a heavy pack. His face is lined with years of regret. Every few steps he pauses, muttering, "This is who I am. I can't change now. It's too late." The fixed mindset has wrapped around him like chains, turning every memory of failure into proof of permanent limitation. He moves, but only in circles, never daring to climb higher. Then, just beyond him, another figure struggles on the same slope. She falls, slides back, scrapes her hands raw against the rocks. But when she stands, there is no shame in her eyes, only resolve. "I'm not there yet," she whispers. She lifts her pack again, heavier now with stones of experience, yet somehow she walks taller. Each scar becomes a mark of progress, each setback a lesson carved into her journey. You notice something striking. The first man's pack never grows lighter, because he refuses to learn from what he carries. He drags the same weight forever. The woman, however, transforms her burden into strength. What once felt crushing becomes the very resistance that builds her. This is the heart of courage and growth, not the absence of fear or pain, but the willingness to keep climbing even when the path is steep. As you walk, the mountain looms larger, its slopes disappearing into clouds painted with sunrise. The forest below fades behind you. The marketplace becomes a memory. And all that remains is the steady rhythm of your breath. Each inhale is a promise. Each exhale, a release of what no longer serves you. Then you see a child again, the same one who once feared being judged for her drawing. She walks beside you now, taller, older, her hands steady. She carries her own lantern marked with the word yet. Together you climb in silence until the path curves toward a plateau where hundreds of others are gathering. Leaders, teachers, friends, children, all carrying their own stories of growth. In the stillness, you understand. The courage to change is not about rewriting the past. It is about refusing to let the past write your future. The fixed mindset builds walls around yesterday's failures. The growth mindset builds bridges to tomorrow's possibilities. The drums fade, replaced by the sound of wind moving across the mountainside. You lift your eyes to the mist ahead, knowing that the final part of this journey is near. A place where growth is no longer just about learning or leading, but about living every day as if you are becoming. The plateau unfolds into a vast circle of stone, ancient and quiet, as if countless travelers have stood here before you. In the center burns a steady flame, its light rising into the mist, illuminating faces turned upward in wonder. You realize this is not just a gathering, it is a reminder. A reminder that growth is not an event but a way of living. You watch as people step toward the fire one by one, each carrying something in their hands. A torn exam paper, a broken instrument, a shattered mirror frame. They place these fragments into the fire, and instead of being consumed, the flame reshapes them. The torn paper curls into a bird that takes flight. The broken instrument becomes whole, playing a note that echoes across the mountain. The mirror shards melt into liquid silver, forming a stream that winds its way down the slope, feeding the forest below. In this moment, you see how the courage to change gives birth to transformation. A fixed mindset clings to the past, clutching broken pieces as if they define you forever. But a growth mindset takes those same pieces and turns them into something new. The difference lies not in the weight you carry, but in the story you tell about what that weight means. The crowd around the fire begins to move. They form a circle, their faces lit by the glow, their eyes filled not with fear but with possibility. A child who once said, "I can't do it," now whispers, "I'll try again." A leader who once ruled with fear now listens with humility. A woman who once hid her true self behind a perfect mask now stands barefaced, her imperfections glowing like gold seams in broken pottery. You step closer to the flame, and the heat brushes against your skin. You hold out the key you found in the grass. For a moment, it is heavy in your palm. Then, as you drop it into the fire, the flames do not consume it. They rise higher, brighter, illuminating the path beyond. The word yet glows again, carved into the air itself, guiding you forward. The mountain is waiting. Its slopes stretch upward, endless, disappearing into the clouds. But you no longer see it as a threat. You see it as a canvas. Each step you take will paint a new stroke. Each stumble will shape your strength. Each failure will become a teacher. The travelers begin their ascent together, their lanterns bobbing like stars climbing the mountain. You take your place among them, no longer trapped by walls of stone, no longer silenced by the fear of judgment. You are not fixed. You are not finished. You are on a journey of growth, of courage, of becoming. And as the first rays of sun break through the mist and paint the peak in gold, you realize that the story is not about proving who you are. It is about discovering, step by step, who you are capable of becoming. The mountain path narrows again, but this time you do not fear it. The climb is steep, your breath grows heavy, and yet each step feels like a vow. Around you, the other travelers move forward, some fast, some slow, but all refusing to turn back. The air grows colder as you ascend, yet the warmth of the flame lingers inside you, steadying your steps. Halfway up the slope, you pass a group of climbers. One has fallen behind, his legs trembling, his hands scraped raw. In the fixed world, he would have hidden his weakness, pretending he was fine, terrified of appearing less capable. But here, in the world of growth, he lifts his eyes and asks for help. The others reach for him without hesitation, pulling him upward, reminding him that strength is not in standing alone but in choosing to keep moving together. You continue higher, and the mist thickens. Shapes flicker in the clouds, shadows of parents, teachers, friends, voices you've carried with you for years. Some whisper, "You'll never be good enough." Others murmur, "Keep going. You can learn." The old voices clash with the new, and for a moment, the path before you wavers, threatening to disappear. But then you remember the word carved into the trees, the lantern on the river, the golden seams in the broken statues. Not yet. You whisper it to yourself. The fog shudders, parts, and the path returns. You feel the mountain testing you, asking not whether you are capable, but whether you are willing to keep choosing growth even when doubt clings to you like a shadow. At a bend in the trail, you find a doorway carved into the cliffside. On its surface are two figures. One is locked in place, clutching a crown as if it might vanish. The other is climbing, hands outstretched, crown left behind, eyes fixed on the sky. You recognize them both, the two versions of yourself you saw across the river. And in that recognition, something inside you loosens. You place your hand on the stone door, and it opens silently. Beyond it lies a plateau of light, the final passage before the summit. You step through, carrying with you the courage to stumble, the willingness to learn, and the quiet power of yet. The climb is not over. It never will be. But you begin to understand. The growth mindset is not about reaching perfection. It is about embracing imperfection as the path itself. It is about waking each morning ready to meet the mountain again, not with fear, but with curiosity and resolve. The summit is hidden still, but the journey itself has become the reward. And as you look up at the glowing clouds above, you sense that what waits at the peak is not a final destination, but a new beginning. The air at the top of the mountain is thin, yet it feels lighter than anything you've ever breathed. The clouds drift away, unveiling a horizon that stretches endlessly, painted in gold and violet. You step onto the summit, and for a moment, silence surrounds you. It is not the silence of fear, nor the silence of being trapped behind stone walls. It is the silence of vastness, of possibility, of a story with no final page. The travelers you've met along the way gather around you. The child with the lantern lifts it high, its flame burning brighter than ever. The craftsman holds his carved wooden figure, imperfect but alive. The leader stands quietly, listening, her eyes filled with humility. Each one carries their scars, their failures, their efforts, not hidden, not erased, but woven into who they are becoming. And then you notice something extraordinary. The summit is not a peak at all. It is a bridge, stretching across the sky. You look down and see the old path of stone walls far below, shrinking into the shadows. That world, the world of the fixed mindset, still exists, but it no longer holds you. You have crossed the river, walked the forest, climbed the mountain, and now you stand where the story turns from learning about growth to living it. The flame from the child's lantern leaps into the sky, scattering into countless sparks. Each spark becomes a star, forming a constellation above you. You see the word "yet" written across the heavens, not carved into trees or painted on lanterns this time, but shining across the night itself, as if the universe were whispering it back to you. You are not done. You are not finished. You are still becoming. You take a step onto the glowing bridge, and others follow. Together, you walk forward, not toward a single destination, but toward a lifetime of learning, of trying, of failing, of rising again. The path will twist, the storms will come, The doubts will whisper. But now, the story you carry is different. It is not the story of being trapped by who you are. It is the story of who you can grow to be. And as you move into that endless horizon, lanterns glowing all around you like companions of light, you understand the gift Carol Dweck has placed in your hands. A seed, a key, a single word that can change everything. Yet. 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 Yet.